Hello, hello, hello. Well, it is day 6 of art tutorial week, and it's always late. So sorry for that. And I just realized that I did not plug my other camera in. So I'm gonna reach over here and plug my camera in to the computer right here with you guys. All right. So I am happy to say that today my intern came over to eat set and helped me out so much. So a huge thank you to her. Um, we got a lot of stuff done. Um, Still not finished, but we are way closer to our big event this weekend. So tonight I am popping on, and I don't know if I will actually finish the project tonight or not. Um, I actually kind of got inspired because we were watching something and um, I saw a skimmer bird, which is a beautiful bird, and also, um, well, I love those birds. Really pretty. And you see them here in Florida, but mostly the skimmers. I think I've seen them most on the west coast of Florida, and we live on the east coast. And here we see a lot of birds in the wild here, especially on the beach. So I did a painting of terns, 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 um, several years ago. It sold many years ago, and I called it Your Turn. And it was nice, and it just reminded me a few moments ago of that painting and how nice it was to paint. So I thought, why not spur of the moment kind of decision here? Why not do a watercolor of tern birds? So that's what we're gonna do. Um, I do have a photo reference here that I've printed out, and they're such cool birds. They literally skim across the water just like a skimmer bird does, but a little bit different. Um, so let's go over the supply list really quick and we'll get into this video. It is day 6. It's just a whirlwind of activity going on around here for sure. And by the way, I'm Nikki, and we are creating art tonight, and hopefully you're seeing this on live. But if not, that's okay. You can catch it on the replay always. So, for supplies. Yes, I'm yawning. Why do I do that? I think it's just because it's late. It's like I've been doing it every night. I am so sorry. It's not you, it is me. I'm tired. We're gonna try to bring over the overhead camera in just a few minutes. You'll need watercolor paper. Um, let me show you guys all this stuff. And I have this clipboard, and you want to mount your watercolor paper on your clipboard with masking tape or artist tape. So I have that on here ready to go. So it looks like masking tape, but this is artist tape. You will need this isn't your normal watercolor painting. 'Cause we are going to do it with these. Now, these are not color pencils. They're pencils with color, but they're pencils with watercolor. So we are going to be using watercolor pencils for this project. I do have a watercolor brush. I do have some regular paint brushes. These are not necessarily watercolor brushes, but I really enjoy them. I used them recently on our little mini vacation, which I painted this here. Can't really tell what that is, but it's a spring, a Florida spring here or up in Central Florida. So anyway, so that was fun. A regular pencil and water. You'll need some water. So, so those are your supplies. I did not probably call them out in the order that you guys are seeing them in. And don't forget maybe a paper plate for mixing or blending. And yes, you can mix and blend watercolor pencils. And watercolor pencils can be used dry or wet, just like you do with regular watercolor. I'm gonna drink something. I have some tea tonight. Okay, so we're gonna try to get the overhead camera up. Let's get our magic fingers out. And it's maybe not there, but we'll put it up in just two shakes. One moment. All right, there it goes. All right, we had to move this all around because we were working here on the desk. So you can see I have a photo reference here and I do have all my supplies. I'm going to put it here. We have been working on Cricut all day. Still not finished with the stickers, but we will be by tomorrow. Hopefully I don't know, the Cricut machine did a little crazy thing today. So um, that was not on my list for the machine mess up. So anyway, I am going to take my regular pencil here and I'm going to lightly sketch out the bird. So here's my reference piece and oh, and you might need a pencil sharpener. Now, how funny is my pencil sharpener, right? Yeah, that's right. Do not do this with your real nose. So I do have a pencil sharpener here as well. Um, do not use that like that. But it's really funny. So I like it. With the photo reference, sorry if there's a lot of clanking, but there's a lot of stuff on my desk. And I really want to move this cable from there. Okay. Sorta, kinda ready to go. Now I am going to not shake the camera, sorry. I'm gonna remind you of the ocean. These birds are found on the shores of the beach, flying around, skimming around, having a good time, eating little fishies. So I am going to take and very lightly sketch this bird out. I'll bring you guys in a little bit closer. I still don't think you're going to be able to see that. So I'm going to sketch it with a regular pencil. Now, can you do this just straight up with the color The watercolor pencils, yes, you can. But I tend to like to use my regular pencil to sketch. So these birds have quite a long beak, and their beaks are orange, which is so much fun. So this one, my reference piece here has his little mouth open. It almost looks like he's smiling. So you guys can see those little faint little marks right here. That's what I'm drawing. And their head is pretty low profile considering how large their beak is. And in this case, this reference, this crazy bird has got his crazy feathers up. So I'm just going to reference some of those. And then I'm going to come down and scoop around his neck. He's kind of, probably he's a little windy out. He's crouched down just a little bit. Doesn't have his neck fully extended. So I'm going to come down to his or her chest. Now this bird's wings are tucked in. It's not a, he's on the shore just hanging out. And I'm going to do that. Where the leg comes into play here, I'm not going to paint the whole leg. They have little feathers that come down their legs. Their legs are black. And then swoop around. This is its wing. Going around here. And then coming down the back of the bird's neck. Like I said, this bird is kind of swooped down a little. Is it swoop down? He's hunkering down. Must be windy. It's going to come down the back and down here, and we are not going to get the whole bird in there because I should have probably started this a little bit of a different size, but that's okay. I'm going to do the tail feathers. These birds have feathers, tail like a kite bird. Has like a forked tail. So it's going to come down and around to his other leg. Give him some little feathers there. And relatively, like, their their legs are not super long. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little knee action there. So now I have the basic shape of this bird penciled in. I know it's super light. I am very sorry if you cannot see that. I'm just going to go and kind of mimic where the wing is on the back of the bird and bring this down and around it. And it kind of blends in with the tail feathers, but it overlaps here. So on the actual tail. Sorry, I was off camera there. And maybe it's more this way. Okay, so we've got pretty much the basics of the bird. Now, my eraser is way up here. I also like to have, instead of just a regular eraser, this is a kneading eraser, so you have to knead it like bread. So you stretch it and get it to wake up. And then anywhere where I definitely am going to take out some pencil lines right now, I'm going to use this. And what's nice about this is that it erases so well. Just cleaning up some areas where I'm like, no, that wasn't good. So, all right. So we got a sketch of the bird there. You can roughly see it. And we're going to put that regular pencil aside. Now you can come in later and take and erase pencil marks in here as well. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by making sure we have enough water in our water pen, which I do not. I used it the last time. Sitting out painting the springs. It's called Wikiwa, not Wikiwa, but Wikiwa Springs up in Paca, Florida, close to Sanford, just north of Orlando. Of course, I pour too much. You guys didn't see that, but that was funny. Just spilling some water everywhere. Definitely gonna wake myself up now. So anyway, we were there. We went there for one day, and we went to some other areas up there for. We were up there for like 2 nights, 3 days. So pretty up there. And unfortunately, I am highly allergic to all those oak trees up there. Yeah, I ended up having like allergies like crazy while I was there. But it is what it is. But we had fun. And most importantly, we did what my husband wanted for his birthday. Okay, so with this bird here, the head of the bird is black here. The beak is orange. The eye is actually in here and it's got a black eye. The wings are this silvery gray and the feet are black. So what I like to do is I like to take a nap. I like to start with the lightest and go from light to dark, is the ideal way of doing watercolor. And it's the same thing with doing watercolor pencil. So, I'm just going to go in here and kind of erase some of these darker lines. I can still see where they're at. I just want to erase some of that darkness out. Okay, I'm going to start in with the beak of the bird. And I am going to do this basically kind of like, think of drawing. Um, and when you're drawing, you have different shades and tones, just like you do when you are painting with regular paint. And these pencils it just makes you have a feeling of drawing and watercolor at the same time. So this is it. If watercolor and pencils had a baby, it would be these. And you can get these pretty much at any place you can buy art supplies. Now I'm going to go in and just faintly put some color in there, almost like coloring a coloring book. And the next fun part is now, if you want to use a regular brush, you can. If you have a water brush, if I can get the lid off, um, they work really, really well. Uh, what happens is there's water in this reservoir here, and it has a brush, and when you squeeze this, the water comes down in through the brush. And I'm going to take this and give it a little squeeze. So if you can see, there's a water coming out. There you go. And I do have paper towel on the side. I'm just going to go in here and touch this. Now, back in the day, and I don't know if they still have these, they probably still do. Um, there used to be coloring books that were like watercolor coloring books, and the outside of everything was lined with the color, and they gave you basically a paintbrush, and you use that paintbrush to basically activate the paint that was outlined. And we used to love doing those. Those were some of our favorite coloring books. And this kind of procedure here with the watercolor pencils, it's the same concept, but you are drawing the actual drawing. So it's not someone else's design in a coloring book. So I'm going to take you guys in a little closer. Move my camera there. And wherever I outlined this area, you can go in. Now you can take that same pencil, and if you need to add, let's say we're going to add some darker lines in there, you can go right over the area that you've already wet here and add a little bit more watercolor pencil, and then take your water brush or your regular brush and just go and blend that in a little bit. And this is how you start light first and then work your way to the darker value. As I'm doing this, I'm giving this a little squeeze, very gently squeezing that to pull the water into the bristles of this brush. Now, this bird has got an orange beak, but honestly, that beak has got a little bit of reddish in it too. So I'm going to take, this is vermilion, and I'm going to take this color and just add it in different places where it's darker, especially under the beak. And we're just going to take this in to the drawing. Maybe it's a little darker around here. The nostril, yes, they have little nostrils. It's like a little slit there. So we have this color. Take the water brush and just touch it a little bit, just to activate it, blend it in, and you're just barely touching that. And when you're doing this, it's so rewarding to see it just working so well. I started using the watercolor pencils recently, so they are new to my world. I've always used your standard watercolor, the little bricks, or l- the actual watercolor that comes in a tube, liquid watercolor. And I have been really enjoying the pencils because when I was younger, and I don't have it right here, but I did most of my art was drawing, and I love that. So I was so excited during my class on Monday that one of the boys in the class is really showing a lot of interest in actually drawing. Um, so I kind of had a day at school that was basically they were trying to finish up some projects, and um, he wanted to draw some. So I'm like, sure, let's get that going. And he had his own little he had a folder where he loves to draw. And it was just so nice. So I showed him some tips and tricks just for him, and he really loved that. So I loved sharing that with him. So anyway, right now I'm going to take the black watercolor pencil and the head. Now in the where the feathers start around the beak, it's kind of speckled there. So, but the edge of it is definitely defined in black. I'm just going to take then do the standard part of the head first and bring it down. Now, this black coloring actually does not go all the way to the end of the beak here. It comes around, and this has all got little specks in it. So we're just going to just drop in some kind of like polka dots right there because that will stay white. And then this, it's almost like they're wearing a little mask, um, which is really fun. And this bird has his feathers up and a crown. So I'm going to take and pull just some lines of feathers coming off the top of his head. And this is just going to show his crown off. Now, we do love birds, my husband and I. We have actually cataloged most birds that come in our yard, which is always fun. Um, I'm going to put a tiny little circle here because there is a little bit of glare of white in the eye. And then the rest of this bird's head is going to be black. So I'm just going to lightly put the black in, and we will make it darker and darker as we go. But right now we're going to put a little bit in, and then we will start blending it. Okay, so I got the white. Gonna grab my water brush, and I'm gonna start with the top of the head here. And this is where you will be able to see the magic happen. And get you guys down in here. I'm gonna give it a little squeeze and get some water to come out. And just barely just tapping the brush in. It's going to be pretty gray right now because we are going to work in a lighter tone to a darker shade. And here I'm just taking and barely brushing some of these funny little feathers, just getting some structure of that in there. And the one thing I want to avoid is that little patch of white closer to the beak, and also this little bit of around the eye. I want to try to avoid touching that so it will stay white. So one thing about watercolor is that you want it, if it's white and you're working with white paper, you need to not paint that part. That's how it stays white. Watercolor is not as forgiving, but I do have to say that when you're working with the pencils, for me, it is a little bit easier because I can manage the actual tones a little bit better. I'm going to go in here with this, and I'm going to go ahead, because this is wet now, when I touch this pencil in here, it's really going to pull the color out of the pencil. So this is all wet, and I'm just going to drop in some of this black straight from the pencil, and you can definitely see the contrast now, right? So we're going to try to stay away from that little white dot for the eye. And take our water pen brush, get some water come out, and just start moving this really intense black watercolor pencil around. I'm just trying to blend it in. And then where we've got these feathers, you can pull it and make sure you're very light touch coming out. Just like this. Now, one of the cool things is that because this bird is basically black, white, and gray, you don't need all the colors for this bird. Now, you can use a little bit of a blue, like a light blue, in with the gray of the feathers that we're going to do in the wings. It kind of gets a blue tone in there. Now, if you wanted to take and use a regular brush, this is a 50 brush. It is super tiny. You want to get in some tiny little feathers. You're going to wet your brush and dab some of that off because that was too much. And then you can pull these really tiny feathers out. You can also, if you want to, take, put some water on the paper plate. And this is one way to use the watercolor pencils, kind of like using regular watercolor. Just going to circle it around in the water. And I always dry off my pencil after doing that because it's super wet. And then you can take, and just like regular watercolor, oh, you guys can't even see that. Just like regular watercolor here, I put some water here. I took the pencil, swirled it around in there. You can do this the same way. So now this color is going to be a little bit more intense. To work from the inside of the feathers out and lift your brush off as you do that. So I hope this is intriguing you to check out watercolor pencils. Um, they're really fun to use. If you like to draw, this is what you can do with them. You're basically drawing and watering it down. So with that watercolor on the paper plate, I can add that to my water brush and bring that color in here as well. It is still pretty wet. You might want to dry the piece with a hair dryer or a heat tool gun. Or you just have to sit and wait for it to dry. You can do that too. While it dries, you can always go to another section of the bird. And in our case, there's a whole nother part of the bird that actually is black. And since we are working on that color, I'm going in and touching and giving it some little freckles. Is on the where the feathers meet the beak are little freckles there. So the other part of this bird, while this is drying here, that is black, are its feet. I know you can't see that, but I will go in here and faintly add what's already on my water brush on the legs. Yeah. So now you can see where the legs are, but we're definitely going to need some more color there. So I'm going to go in with the watercolor pencil and just go in and color that in a little bit more. And then over here, do the same thing. Just want to fill it in. The legs of the bird are super dark. Just adding in the watercolor pencil. Take the water pen or your brush. Do a little bead of water come out and tap it in there. And just like with the head, you may have to do this a couple times to get the correct saturation in black. It's pretty dark. So I will go over that when it dries. So this is the starting of this bird. Now, since I have this grayish color underneath the wing, under the chest of the bird. There is quite a bit of shadow here. So I'm going to pull in some shadow, which is gray, underneath this bird. It's a little bit darker gray on the edge here. I'm just going to add a little bit darker and let that flow. Underneath the bird down here, I'm going to try to put in all these little gray kind of areas where it's in the shadow on its body. And just place in some of this watercolor that's already on my brush from the black. And yes, this would be white, but because it's in the shade and in the shadow of the bird, it is gray technically. So we have some of that. The back side of the bird has a gray bottom. Just gonna go and put some gray here and just line that. And remember, keep it a light tone first, and then when you need to add more, then add more afterwards. Okay, so I'm gonna at this point clean my brush out, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go in here in this wing and grab this light blue, and I'm gonna go and just put in some areas where this bird has this grayish blue on its feathers. So you guys can see that. I'm going to do that down here. The bottom feathers are quite blue. Back on the bottom tail feathers. Yeah, definitely this bird has a lot of blue tone into the feathers, but they're really gray. So I have some blue in there, and now I actually have a watercolor pencil that is gray. So I'm gonna go in and just drop this gray color around the edges where it's the darkest. And their feathers, they have these little pointed parts of their feathers, just like a normal tip of a feather, but not all the areas are like that. They look very light and fluffy, kind of. So I'm just going to fill in some of the white areas that I've got here with the gray pencil. And so this is where I'm talking about it's really like um coloring or drawing. Wow, what is happening? So I think that was my intern sending me messages like, wow, did y'all hear that? She's sending me a bunch of stuff. We had fun today, so and she learned some things about business, which is really good, and that's part of when she's here. She has a small business herself and is a maker. And we talk about different things. And today it was about, um, you know, I've got an order with a client, and so we had a little discussion about charging your clients and how much should you charge a client for um, things and stuff. So it's part of my internship with the interns that I have that come. There's also like an educational process with business usually. Some of them are looking to just learn art more, so I teach them that. It all depends on everybody's a little bit different, and they have different things that they want to learn, and I'm happy I'm able to teach them that stuff. So, as you can see, I've got these feathers in here. This part of the bird is like super white, so we're not going to touch that. So I'm going to take my water brush, make sure I cleared out anything from before, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to start on this part of the wing. Now, this is the wing of the bird, and I'm just going to go give it a touch of water on the edges. And what happens is it gives me kind of a line, a barrier line of where that is. I'm outlining it per se with the water pen. So what I'll do is, because the gray is obviously darker than the blue, I'm going to activate the blue first that I put in with the water. And when you put the watercolor pencil down, you want to just lightly fill it in. So one of the really cool pieces parts right here, and you'll see I give it a little squeeze of water. Might be too much. So I get a paper towel, and you'll see this all blend together, especially here. And I'm just going on the edges and giving myself that line where the color is. And this tail is going off the edge of my paper. And this is at the lightest value of the color that's on here, the blue and the grays. Start light and then add more, because you cannot take it off once you get it on there. So now I've got the blue pretty much blended. I'm going to give my brush a little squeeze. And now I'm just going to go in and touch where the gray is. Give a little squeeze. And if you want this to look more of a sketch kind of a piece of artwork, then you might want to just leave it at the lightest value. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's watercolor. It's supposed to be nice and soft. And I'm hoping you guys can see how that's, when I touch the wet brush, here it blends in really nicely. It's nice, right? I'll just look at what time it is. It's getting late. So what I will do is on the front of the bird, this is still the pencil mark with the regular pencil. I'm going to go in with this light gray, and I'm just going to go in and give myself a line to go by there, and then also along the legs with the gray. Just going to give us a little bit of a contrast around the edge of the bird. Like I said, this whole chest of the bird is very white, but there is gray. And if I take my watercolor pen brush and I'm just going to lightly go across there, just one swipe, and then kind of blend anything. Just going to give me a nice gray line to kind of define where that is. So, and at this point, I want to go down to the edge where the feathers meet the legs. Just adding in a touch of water all the way around the edge of the bird. The next, excuse me, the next process of working on this bird will be to start making more of a contrasting color. Like this head of the bird, let's go back to our reference piece here. The reference piece, and this piece is a lot lighter, as you can see. So I'm going to bring it in darker, just making sure that where that little white dot is of the eye stays a little white dot of the eye. This is all dry already, so that's why we went down and did a couple more things. And I'm going to just go in here and drop some straight black in here. Oh, Toledo. Then I'm going to pull out some water on my brush and give it some moisture there. Just activate that area. And what I will also do is I'm actually gonna wet this part pretty good, and I'm gonna take the pencil and go in there with a wet to get super concentrated black feathers in here. So this is how you can do what we would call a wet on wet, but it's wet on pencil, if that makes sense. This is going to give us a super dark area. So now, to get this super dark over here, we're going to take our thinnest brush, give it some, wet it a little bit, and we're going to try to pull some of these darker values up into these crazy crown feathers. I'm just going to pull it straight from where we just put it in. Now, if I want to do a little bit more, I'm going to drop some water on my paper plate and then just swirl in some black straight from the pencil on that. Super black. Dry off my pencil. Take my paintbrush, drag it into this, and from the base of the head, come out to the crown. And like I was saying before, always start lighter and then you can darken it up as you go. Because this pencil is wet, you can also take and dip it in the water and activate just the pencil and draw straight like that as well. So it's really kind of a preference of individually. Individuality. I'm so tired. On how to get these little dark feathers in. Well, there we go. Now, if we want to go into those little polka dots, the little freckles, you can touch them all again. Maybe the edge of the bird space here. So now we have, this is pretty dark. We still managed to keep the little light of the eyeball there. Now you could go back in with a white paint marker, super tiny, thin white paint marker, and go in and do more. I mean, technically that eyes should have been down a little bit more, so I may fix that later. But it is getting late. So what I'm going to do is the next thing really quick, and then I'm going to go back over the blue areas and I'm going to add some more pencil in where these blue feathers are, grayish blue. And I'm just going to push down pretty good and get some more color on there. Always working from lighter to dark. So I got that in. I'm going to clean off my water brush and go in here and just touch that blue again, all the blue, just with some water on the water brush. Just activating that watercolor enough to get it to blend a little. We're going to take the gray. We're going back in with the gray. We're going to start doing a little bit more of defined areas where the feathers are. And this way, basically just going in and giving it a darker value. Mm, I'm going to activate this and then I'm going to bed. So we have those. We're just going to touch each little spot where it's darker and just lift it and blend it a little bit. Now, the cool thing is about watercolor pencil is that if you sketch your things on there and not activate them right away, you need to take a break, you can pick up where you left off and then reactivate it later on. So that's really cool. So just to let you know, I actually probably do some kind of art form every single day. And, practice, practice, practice is the key. Pretty much anybody can make art. It's just a matter of taking time to practice doing it. You can learn how to do art. And I hope maybe this will inspire you to go out, grab some watercolor pencils, and make something really cool. So what I did just now is I went into that paper plate and grabbed some more of that gray color that's on there and just dropping in a little bit of darker gray in here on the back wing. Gonna sweep it around the chest of the bird. Anywhere, if you take your photo reference, I should have just turned it black and white. It makes it a lot easier to see the tone and value and shades if you go ahead and turn your, if you're working from a reference piece, turn it black and white, and you will be able to see really how dark the grays are. It's usually darker than you think. So, and I remember that in school. My art teacher, Mr. Mack, um, he would always be like, "Nope, you gotta go darker. You gotta go darker." And I can just hear him. You need to go darker, darker. It's kind of scary to go really dark, but it's really what is actually there. So don't be scared of it. Just do it. And if it messes up, just say, "Oh, it was a learning experience, and I will do it again." And in a lot of cases, I do that. I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll do it again." You gotta learn, and if it messes up, it's okay. It's just paper. It's just paper and a little bit of watercolor pencil can totally just do it again. So it's not the best quick watercolor. Is it quick? I don't know. Um, but it is doing its job. Here, Mr. Mac, darker, a little darker, more darker. Go too dark. You can't go back to get it white unless you um use the white pen. There's down here, it's a little bit of a shade underneath here. It's not necessarily completely black and white. No, this is the scary part. So the beak of the bird, when you look at this, there's a quite a dark line here going in. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go and lightly do it first. I'm just taking and activating where I put the color pencil on the plate. Grabbing that. So it's not completely done, but it's pretty much what I'm going to do for tonight. I can always come back to it, but I hope you learned a little bit about using watercolor pencils in this episode of Art Tutorial Week on probably one of my busiest weeks of the year. I decided to do Art Tutorial Week. And I'm going to pull the camera out a little so you guys can see the reference piece to the difference of what I painted. Give me just a second. Um, Pull the camera up. It's it's getting there. The beak's not quite right. There is some white. You can always go back, but you see how dark this value is in here? It is nowhere near that darkness here, but it is watercolor, so it does not have to be super hyper saturated to do that. It can just be a nice soft watercolor. Um, so here it is. You can see the feet, and it's okay for a very quick watercolor painting. So let's get the magic fingers out here and go back to the other view. There it is. So, as you can see right here, that's what we've got done tonight, and it's okay. Okay with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We do have one more day of art tutorial week tomorrow. It will be a very busy day for me, but we will be on here. Hopefully, it won't be late. It's just been crazy, but we got a lot of work done here in the studio today, and I hope you enjoyed this episode with watercolor pencils on Art Tutorial Week. So we'll see you later. And you guys, there's going to be a big announcement on Friday. So today is Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to make kind of a big announcement. Nothing's changing. Well, actually, something's changing, but you'll all find out soon. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in and good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this, and bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Good night.